Okay, let's start. So, the last lecture we discussed about the strain gauge, and this particular lecture would be on strain gauge circuit. Right? That means this particular one. So, that slide is downloaded here, and let me show this. So, we have discussed up to electrical resistance strain gauge, okay, and then we are going to discuss about strain gauge circuit, recording other things here in this particular lecture. So, the measurement, okay, so what we are going to measure, the change in the resistance of the strain gauge, that is what is our the quantity we are going to measure is this change in strain gauge resistance, for which we use this sort of Wheatstone bridge circuit. Okay. So, you know what is Wheatstone bridge circuit, right? Like a bridge, there are 4 arms which contains some resistances. Okay. Now, across 2 corners there is a supply voltage, and across the other 2 corners we have the measurement of voltage. So, here the strain gauge itself is an element of the circuit. So, it is basically resistance of the arm of a particular bridge. So, there are possibilities that we can use a single gauge, we can use 2 number of gauges, or the complete 4 number of gauges. Accordingly, they are known as quarter bridge, half bridge, or full bridge. Okay. So, this particular one is a quarter bridge. It is a quarter bridge circuit, right. Now, what is shown here, this is the layout, and this is used to measure a quite small change in the resistance of strain gauge, which we observed in our last lecture itself, that for a particular application where we had 100 microstrain, the percent change in the gauge resistance, it was only 0.02%, right. And what voltages are given, how much output voltage we get, how we can enhance sensitivity of measurement, etc., that we will see here. Okay. Let us see how we obtain a change in the resistance value through measurement of this voltage here. Okay. So, the equivalent of this circuit is shown here. See, B is a common point. So, this B is a common point, right, and from which we can come to this point D through these 2 alternate paths. Okay. BAD and BCD. Taking that there is no current passing through this line. Okay. So, then this is the arrangement. Okay. The common voltage at point B is this supply voltage V in, okay, and in the other end this voltage is 0. Right. So, if this is 5 volt, this is 5 volt, and this is 0 volt, like that. So, at point D, this is our voltage 0. Okay. Now, say at point A, what is the voltage there? Let us say this is voltage V3 at point A. Okay. So, this is the voltage drop across R3 is I1 into R3, right?
Yes, sir.
Similarly, at point C, this is I2 into Rg, which is our strain gauge resistance. In general, it would be R4. Let us see here. So, if this Rg is R4, then it would be R4, whatever. So, this is I1. What is this I1 through this circuit? This is the total voltage drop V in, right, and the total resistance This is R1 plus R3, they are in series. So this is the current. Here I2 along this path, this is again V in divided by R2 plus RG, right. So what is the drop at this point A? This is I1 into R3, right.
Yes.
So this V3 is I1 is V in divided by R1 plus R3, right. So V in into R3 divided by R1 plus R3. Similarly, at point G, at point C, the voltage G is obtained into I2 into RG. I2 is given by this, substitute it here. This is the voltage VG, right. Now, initially it is balanced. So that means in initial configuration, when the strain gauge is not under the stress field, it is balanced. That means there is no current through this. The measured voltage is 0. But when this strain gauge is in a stress field, there is a change in test resistance. Then there would be some change and we will get some measurement. So what is that measurement? If the voltage at point A and point C, they are different, their difference will be the measured voltage, the difference. So what is this Vg minus V3? This is the measured voltage. And what is this difference? Let us substitute this V3 and Vg here, right. So this V measurement becomes V in common, right, this one minus this one. Clear, right. So this fundamental relationship, this part is clear. When this is 0, it is called balanced, which is a necessary condition, right. And that is why all Wheatstone bridge, they need to be balanced at the beginning of the experiment or measurement. So this part is clear. Non-zero value of B measured. Okay, what else is there? Now there are something else here. One is this meter itself. Okay, this measurement is carried out by some voltage meter, galvanometer sort of thing, right. It has a resistance by itself, say that is Rm, and what would be that voltage drop about this resistance. This is, in this path current was I1, in the other path current was I2, right. Here I1 and I2, they were the current in different path. And if this is R1, I1 into R1 voltage point, voltage at that point, and I2 into R4 is from here. Now what happens, this I1 and this I2, they refer to this current through resistance R1 and current through resistance R2. That means here the situation has changed. In this situation it was balanced. So when there was no change in resistance, when there is a change in resistance, this V3 and Vg, they are not balanced.
Yes.
In that case there is some current in this line.
Yes.
So that is why now through R1 the current is I1 and here it is said, say current is I2 here, and in this path current is Im. This is the situation. So this E measured is that current into Rm, which is the difference of these two, right. I1 into R1 and minus I2 into R4, that difference is this in this path, right. And then this R1 and R4 values, this is what we have seen earlier, right? So if we substitute that, this is what we get, right? So E is here, this voltage is taken as E. Okay. So why V and E is different? Because this battery itself has a resistance.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in actual circuit, this V is rated voltage or zero current voltage, right? In actual circuit, this is E. So this is clear?
Yes.
So now V in is substituted by E, and this is V measured, this is EM. So this is what we are getting, right? And then you see what will happen now. Here this R4 we considered previously, we had a single strain gauge only, right? So there was a change in this particular resistance value. If we consider, we have 4 number of strain gauges in the circuit. Everywhere there would be a change in resistance.
Yes.
If we substitute these things, R1 plus delta R1 in place of this R1, we'll get another equation, right? Okay. And then in that particular equation, what will happen is that if this, now ideally once again what we consider, this Rm is tending to infinity and this current is tending to 0, that is what will happen here. Okay. And in such case, this V out and V in relation means this one here. Okay. If we substitute the changes R1 in this equation, if Rg is Rg plus delta Rg. So here this is R4 plus delta Rg. R2 plus delta R2. That way if we substitute these things, we get this particular equation, okay, with some manipulation. This is fine. So this is our out. V out means the voltage we measured across this voltage meter. Right? V in is this supply voltage, say, or E, whatever. Now, what is this quantity? Let us observe this. You see here, if we consider all the resistances are same, right? And then let us consider a situation where two of the resistances, say R1 and R3, they are in compressive stress, and say R2 and R4, they are in tensile stress. Then what will happen? This will become a positive, this will also become positive, right? So we can say this is N into this quantity is N means number of active gauges, into delta R by R. If R1 equal to R3 equal to R2 equal to R4 equal to R. That is the situation, right? So there, number of active gauges plays a role, right? To increase sensitivity means what? V out by V in, delta E by E. This is a measure of sensitivity, right? Change in voltage per unit of that supply voltage. So this is somewhat a contributing factor, number of active gauges. Okay. This is what we use in actual application. We will see this thing. That is what I was talking about. If only one quarter bridge, we have this quantity. If it is a half bridge, we will put this thing along with this thing. Okay. N is 2, and if all 4 are there, we have to arrange such that these 2 are in compression. Sometimes it is possible. In other cases also it is done by putting resistances in transverse direction, by using the effect of Poisson's ratio. Okay, that is what we will see gradually. And then this particular quantity, right? This can be expressed as R divided by 1 plus R square, where what is this small r? It is this ratio, R1 by R4 equal to R2 by R3 equal to R. Actually, we have seen earlier, for a Wheatstone bridge to be balanced, R1 into R3 need to be equal to R2 into R3. Right. So, this ratio is R, and there is a simple mathematical manipulation. You take out R1 as a common from here, R3 as a common from here, this R1, R3 and this thing will get cancelled. No, it will get cancelled, and this will become 1 plus R, this will become 1 plus 1 by R. So, 1 by R. So, this here you will get 1 plus R whole square, and that 1 by R will again go in the numerator. So, this is what. So, here you see this particular value, this is also a contributing factor to this sensitivity. So, this particular sensitivity is called the circuit sensitivity. Okay. So, here what happens in this particular figure, this quantity, let us say this is a function of R. Okay. If we make a plot of that function of R, right, for a value of R which ranges from 1 to 4, right, this is what is created at an interval of 0.1. So, from 0 to 4, okay, some values are created, understand, there are 41 values, right. This will give this value, intermediate values of R is 41, and each point this value of function of R, this quantity is computed, right, R divided by 1 plus R whole square. Clear? You understand, this is simple MATLAB code, right, and then this is plotted, this is the plot. So, what is the observation from here? This maximum value can go up to 0.25 only, right, not more than that. And what is this? What is the corresponding R value for which function of R is maximum? This value is obviously 1. You can carry out a derivative of this with respect to R, you can find it out. The same thing will come. Okay. So, what is the maximum value we can get from here? It is basically 1 by 4. If we take that, R value is 1. That means R1 by R4 equal to R2 by R3 equal to 1. And that is what is used. And if there are 4 number of active gauges, we have 4 into delta R by R. Right? 1/4 into 4, this is 1 as such. Okay. And this change of resistance is R into this circuit sensitivity. Right. And then we also have this delta R is given by our gauge factor is there. In previous slide we have seen what is the net sensitivity of the gauge. So, that way the measurement depends not only on the gauge factor of the strain gauge, there is a circuit sensitivity factor as well. So, altogether we get some output result. Okay, this part is clear. Now, this is some calculation for the total bridge resistance, etc. Okay. So, that part we are not going to discuss now. Again, we see here, this is the one we have seen earlier. Here another contributing factor is this supply voltage, right. This change in voltage is the right hand side multiplied by this E. So, if we enhance this E, our output voltage will be increased. But then there is the limitation. So, that limitation is somewhat indicated here. So, it comes from the heat which is generated due to the supply voltage, there would be some current in the circuit. So that heat loss or I square R or V square by R, whatever you say, that is the power dissipation or heat loss. So the heating itself, there is a allowable value 1 degree per inch per 25 millimeter. Right? This much is allowed. Supply voltage ranges from 2 volt to 10 volt. We have some specified values for R, 120 ohm, 350 ohm and 1000 ohm. And then what is done here, there is a thermal conductivity of that strain gauge also, right. That means what is the quantity of heat which is generated and how much of heat which is dissipated. This K into delta T is a measure of this heat dissipation, right, and I square R or V square by R, it is a measure of heat generation. So, if we balance these two, okay, where we know what is the allowable value of delta T, some recommendation is there. So, with this we can find out some limiting value of the supply voltage. Okay. For aluminium, for steel, the thermal conductivity values are known. Okay. So, that way there are some more factors there, like the noise current which generates. Okay, those things are also there, but somehow this is what we get. Supply voltage ranges from 2 volt to 10 volt. This is the usual figure. Okay, and then the measurement, actual measurement. So here, what we measure ultimately is this delta E, and this delta E is measured by the galvanometer here. That means this meter, again some meter. So you see, ordinarily, if we use a deflection type meter, right, a voltmeter, say analog type, we have a scale there. There is a indicator arm which deflects on the scale, and we measure the change in voltage, output voltage. So this essentially requires this current through this circuit. So whatever meter we use, this RM, meter resistance, cannot be infinite. This is an assumption. So actually there will be some error in the measurement due to this current in the circuit. You see, ideally our equation, this is what we developed, okay, taking current in this circuit as 0. So if there is some current through this line AC, then this equation is not valid as such. Okay, so that error will come if there is some current in the circuit, which we cannot avoid in deflection type of measurement. If we use a galvanometer or some voltage meter here, that is inevitable, and that is taken care of by increasing the resistance value of the meter. This is the thing. Okay. So there is another method which is known as null method. This is null method. See, here we are not using any explicit, okay, galvanometer at this point here. Rather, what is used is, along with this resistance, say we have a quarter gauge. So resistance of this particular strain gauge is changing, right? We have another variable resistor. Understand? This smaller is a variable resistor. And what we are doing here, this value, particular value, we are changing, right? And we are observing for this display. So initially it was 0 balanced, then after experimentation there is some deflection in this meter.
Yes.
Now we are controlling this variable resistance, okay, and we'll set this variable resistance when again this output voltage comes back to 0. Clear? So in such situation we know how much resistance we have changed,
Yes.
right? And then we can make the analysis once again. What is the net effect of this resistance with this? Okay, and that is a measure of the change in resistance of this particular strain gauge, which is of interest to us. So that way this null method of measurement is better in that sense. Okay, there is no current in this line. Okay, if this supply voltage in this line there is no current, so that way the error due to meter resistance is not there. But what is the problem? It requires a post processing. We cannot take direct reading, right? So this is not suitable for dynamic application.
Yes.
Again, the time of experimentation is much more. Okay. So that is why there are advantages and disadvantages of these two methods. So unless we require very accurate measurement, the null method of measurement is not used. For ordinary application, we use deflection type instrument. Okay. And data capture is quite easy from here. Okay. So the output of this meter can be directly stored in some instrumentation, and we can go on making the experiment by changing load, etc. etc. This is clear. So these two are the methods for the measurement. Now what are other units? So here you see, previously we have mentioned that in a particular case if all are equal, right? So that way making all the resistances equal is quite difficult, right? Okay. So to make that thing, say all the resistance values, there will be some variation somehow, whatever be the thing. There is another resistor which is called balance control. Okay. So by this arrangement, what is done? The initial zero balance, okay, that is obtained. So if we put 4 strain gauges in the 4 arms, then it is quite unlikely that their resistance values are all equal. So we will get some initial deflection. It is not a balanced circuit. And then we control this resistor, which is balance control resistor, and make it balanced. This is one part. This is another resistor which is available with all commercial strain indicators. Okay. Strain measures. This is known as calibration resistor, which acts on the same principle. So for given values of this R, the approximate strain, these are some values which we should get in the measurement is given here. Okay. So we need to check whether our instrumentation circuit is correct or not. This is calibration resistor, and then this is what we are discussing earlier. Single gauge N value is 1. Here in this configuration our N value is 2. Both are active gauges. You see how they are fitted. Okay. And in this configuration, one is dummy gauge, one is active gauge. This is what we use to compensate some interfering or those effects, right? Like temperature effect, etc. And then we have this is the temperature effect compensation methods. Then the 4 gauge all are active. Okay. And here we know this is possible, this particular configuration is possible when this particular element is under bending, where one of the surface, top surface is say in tension, bottom surface in compression or otherwise. In such case, this is how we have to put these resistances in the arms of the Wheatstone bridge. That is what I was talking about,
Yes.
right? Two were negative and two were positive. This is what. And then you see here, if the type of load is bending, then with only one gauge we will get this multiplying factor, okay, in totality. This is 1/4, because in the gauge circuit we had R by 1 plus R, that is 1/4, right?
Yes.
That into 1, this is known as quarter bridge, okay. And here in quarter bridge this value is becoming 0.5. What is this value? Is it indicated? This is millivolt per volt at the rate of 1000 microstrain, right? What else is required?
So this is delta E by
This is delta E by corresponding to 1000 microstrain. So from that this value is coming, okay. So here in bending with a single strain gauge, quarter bridge, we are getting that value as 0.5. Then with 2, it would be obviously double 1, and here this 4 number of active gauges 2. But this is not possible, even this thing, it is not possible if the loading is axial. You see, in axial we have 4 gauges, but if we align all the 4 gauges in axial direction, we are not getting any benefit.
yes, sir.
Rather, it will worsen the situation. Everything will get cancelled. So now what happens? This 2 and 4, they are fitted in transverse direction. So what would be the strain here? They are negative strain, because minus nu into epsilon, nu is negative value,
Yes, sir.
right? So that way we can fix them in this 4 element gauge. This is clear? And maximum value what we can get? 1.3 means here Poisson's ratio is considered as 0.3.
Yes.
Okay. So you understand? This is what we will get. This is quarter, and here with 2 number of gauges, half bridge, there are 2 possibilities. In such situation, this is 1, double of 0.5, and if they are arranged like this, we can get at the most 0.6. Clear? Okay. There is another case which is torsion, quarter bridge and full bridge. This is half bridge and full bridge. This is clear. Okay. So this is an experiment. Actually, in our next lecture, we will be discussing about a particular specimen under bending. Okay. So how they are measured, etc., etc. They would be discussed in further detail. Okay. And the other application is rosette analysis. So here what happens? So far, whatever discussion we did, we considered that the direction of the strain, the principal strain direction, that is in the direction of the gauge, direction of the gauge along which the wires are aligned, they are identical. But it is not possible always. So what are the possibilities? One possibility is that we know what are the principal stress directions. For example, if we have a pressure vessel, we always know the longitudinal direction and the transverse direction or tangential direction. that we can find out very easily along the axis and along the circumference. In such cases, this type of strain gauge will do. Only two elements is sufficient when the principal stress directions are known. And then there are here for biaxial field with known strain direction, we use two elements, rectangle. But for general, when nothing is known, we know that there is a bidirectional stress field, the principal directions are known. In such cases, we have to use three elements. Okay. So these are three elements. These two are two elements. These two are three elements. But you see here, this is called a rectangular result. Why? Their relative angles of these strain gauges are at 0, plus 45 minus 45, or we can say this is 0, 45 and 90. Whatever way we fix it. What is this arrangement? This is another three element where the angle between these directions are no, actually it is 120 degree apart. Okay. These are the active gauges. They are 120 degree apart. Now this is basically this star actually. This is 120 degree basically. Okay. So now what is this one? Here this is also the same thing. These are 120 degree apart, all these strain gauges. Okay. This particular directions, in between them we are getting 60 degree altogether. These are 120 degree apart. Okay. So their stacking is at 60 degree basically. So now what is the difference between these two? This requires quite a large area, and here the area required for this stacking is much less. Okay. So what is the advantage here? It can experience the strain of the surface in a better way, because all the gauges are quite close to the surface, but here they are stacked, so the top one is at a larger distance from the surface. So that way it has a lower sensitivity as such towards strain. But if we have a large strain gradient, the stress field has a wide variation, like close to a stress concentration area. In such cases, we have to use this type of strain gauge. So these are for different purpose of our measurement. These type of strain gauges are available. Okay, these are known as strain rosettes or rosette analysis. So let us see how we make this measurement. So this is understood. What is a strain rosette and why we use them. Now in general, you recall our discussion on stress transformation, right? This is transformation matrix between x, y, z and x prime, y prime, z prime direction. Right? So it's special case in 2D. What will happen? This z and z prime direction, they remain identical. So this is 1, these values are 0. And then this particular values, okay, one is theta, other one is 90 degree minus theta now. Okay. So that way this will become cos theta minus sin theta and cos theta. So this is the transformation matrix in 2D.
Yes, sir.
So in 2D, this is our stress field,
Yes.
and to transform this into another coordinate system, right? X prime y prime to x y. This is the transformation equation,
Yes.
and expanding it, this is what we get. So here, say these are the measured, and say these are the principal directions, whatever. So what will happen if we use different types of these rosettes? That is what let us observe. In general, the angles of these rosettes, there are three.
Yes.
They are named as A, B and C, and they are relative angles with some assumed x-axis is theta A, theta B, theta C, like this. On the specimen, we can always take a x, y frame, depending on the geometry of the object. And corresponding to that capital X, Y coordinate system, three strain gauges are fixed in direction theta A, theta B, theta C. This is transformation matrix. Okay. This is the general expression as such. This is the expression. And if these are the measurements, right? So these measurements with this angles, okay, they would be given by these equations, is it not? For epsilon A for this one, what is the equation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now,
Cos square theta A, epsilon
Ah.
x is cos square theta A, plus epsilon y sin square theta plus.
here sin theta and cos theta.
Yes.
Same thing for this theta B also, we have
Yes.
the same thing and for. Okay, so this is the general expression
Yes.
for rectangular rosette. And this is the thing,
Yes.
we can orient it like that. Now, if we put this in this equation, what will happen?
Last two,
Sin theta is 0, cos theta is 1, right?
last two term 0.
Last term is 0, so our epsilon x is epsilon A, right? Now, what it is when theta c is 90, then what is happening? Epsilon yy remains, right?
Yes.
Other two are 0. So epsilon c is epsilon yy, and when it is 45 degree, then what will happen? Already we have seen epsilon yy and epsilon xx, they are epsilon a and epsilon c, right? Let us substitute it there. And this is half 1 by root 2 into 1 by root 2, these are also half. And this reading is epsilon b, so twice into epsilon b minus these two readings. Okay, clear? So this is the value of gamma x, right?
Yes.
So for a rectangular rosette, we can directly get this xx, yy and gamma xy value from the reading of this strain gauges A, B and C. What is the special case here? Theta A is 0, theta B is 45 and theta C is 90. Then this is the same thing
New
is
coordinate system.
shown here. Okay. In actual 45 degree. This is the general, this is the figure here. Same thing. What will happen if next we use rectangular rosette, and here the principal directions are unknown, right? So we have some values, some known values. So from these values we have to determine the principal stress as well as principal direction, right? So this is what you already know.
Yes.
What is epsilon x, epsilon y, that reading is there. But they are not the principal directions in general.
Yes.
So from this reading of sigma x, sigma y and gamma x, right? These are strain which can be converted into stress. So this is the Morse circle in 2D. And in this Morse circle, quite easy to find out these angles. Okay. So this will give us the principal stress value. If we draw Morse circle, it is possible. Analytically also, this is the value.
Yes, sir.
The same thing, the Morse circle is represented analytically here. This is the value which we are getting like this. Okay. This principal direction we can find out by measuring this angle, or this is given by this relation as well.
Yes.
So these two angles are the direction of principal stresses. Corresponding principal stress values are this 90, other one is 245.7, and its maximum value, the radius, or you find out the difference divided by 2, or how it will come from here, tau max.
The sigma
So-
3 is 0.
Sigma 3 is 0. Okay.
Sigma minus-
Sigma max minus 0 by 2. Okay. So this. So this is for how we can find out principal stress and direction for rectangular rosette. This is another example where we have that delta rosette, right? Actually, those angles are, these angles are 120 degree apart. If this is the case, then this is what we will get from there. Okay. And these are the readings. So you have to solve such a problem. The solution is not shown here, but this is ultimately what we will find out. This is
Same approach.
same approach. Okay. So you solve it. The solution is given here. The problem is given and the solution is also given. The angle, the values, okay. These are given. You solve this thing and then see what happens. Strain reading. Okay.
Okay, sir. This is the principal stress.
These are the principal directions. Epsilon 1, epsilon 2, they are the principal directions of stresses as well as the strains as well. So what values are given here? They are given in terms of strain units, microstrain units, strain readings. Okay. So this is not converted into stress reading. Directly from the strain reading, this is what is shown. So this is maximum value 3790 and the other one is 2090 in microstrain unit. Okay, so next part, this transfer sensitivity, there is some error which occurs due to this. So this much require, this is a quite complicated thing. It is not possible to discuss here. So that way I will make another slide exclusively for this error which comes due to this transfer sensitivity, okay, and then I will discuss this thing. Okay. You recall our earlier discussion where we mentioned that the manufacturer specifies strain gauge as well as a transfer sensitivity. By that, by the use of that transfer sensitivity factor, we can correct the error which occurs due to measurement of stresses from these readings. Okay. Because the reading is correct only when the strain gauge is oriented along the direction of principal stress. There are some other conditions also. If the Poisson's ratio of the specimen we are testing and the specimen for which the strain gauge was calibrated, if they are identical, then there is no error. Okay, but there might be possibility of change in material,
Yes.
change in this direction, principal directions. Everything will cause some error in measurement. So how to correct those things? It is not that easy. Okay. And then we have a single gauge, we have other type of arrangement. Okay. This is the arrangement where principal directions are known. This is the general orientation for different types of strain rosettes or simple strain gauge. The error analysis part we won't discuss here. Okay. So afterwards, this is a remaining part. We'll have a separate lecture on that error analysis part. And the next part will be on actual experimentation. We'll carry out an experiment. These are some of the measurement units. Okay. So here once again we have analog and digital type of instruments. Okay. So these are strain indicators, sort of these things. Actually, we will get more detail when we will be discussing about an actual experiment. We will show you some of the instruments in strain measurement unit. So this is all about our strain gauge circuit or measurement part of the strain gauge. So the next part what we will be discussing is an experiment. Okay, an actual experiment on strain gauge. So that part we will be discussing in our next lecture.